المرسلين نبينا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم ثم أما بعد. We begin as we should, as we always do, with the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the especially merciful. And we ask Him and Him alone to send His peace and blessings upon our dear and beloved teacher, leader, and guide, and the best of examples for the Muslims and all of humanity, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on his pure family, his good companions, and all those who attempt to follow in their footsteps until the day that we meet our Creator. Allahumma ameen. As to what follows. So, firstly, we want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the magnificent throne, that He grant us and bless us with beneficial knowledge, and that He bless us by the knowledge He has already given us. And we also ask Him, the mighty and the powerful and the majestic, that He grant aid and victory and steadfastness for our brothers and sisters in Philistine. May He have mercy on their dead and grant them martyrdom. May He heal their sick and their wounded. And may He grant steadfastness and fortitude and strength of will for those who are still alive to be able to continue to move forward. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala return the land of the Muslims to the hands of the Muslims. And may He unite their ranks to be like one hand as a fist in the face of the enemies of Islam. Allahumma ameen. That's what follows. So, inshallah, we're going to be covering Suratul Ma'un. Suratul Ma'un. Inshallah, as we continue our mukhtarat, our chosen chapters that we'll be covering in Juz Amma. And this surah today, inshallah, is an important surah. And it's a surah that all of you, at least by now, have memorized, inshallah. And even some of you probably even might know some of the meaning, if not all of it. But the first thing we want to know is some of the names of this surah. And something to keep in mind about the names of surahs, or the names of chapters, most often they are taken directly from the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the Prophet called this surah such and such. You know, for example, when he speaks about Surah Al-Fatiha, right? And he told multiple companions, shall I not teach you the greatest surah in the Quran? And sometimes he would say, right, that he would say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, where he didn't mention it with a name or a title. He just went straight into reading the surah. So could be said, okay, we can call that surah Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. But in some of those same ahadith, or in different narrations, he would call it Al-Quran Al-Azim wa Sab' al-Mathani, right? That he would call it the 7 often recited verses. So 7 often recited verses per the statement and the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the name of Surah Al-Fatiha, Sab'a Mathani. So those are just a couple of examples, right, where it's taken directly from the words of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes it's taken from a word in the surah, right? Like what we have here. وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. So the word, or that word, is what's taken out and used to be the title of the surah. So sometimes it's taken directly from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes, and we're just talking about the names of the surah, it's from either the ijtihad of the Sahaba, right? Well, that's what they would call it, right? Or some scholars might derive it from a theme or reoccurring theme in a chapter, right? Where they would say, okay, that's the name of the surah. Al-Muhim, but this surah, right, one of the names is Al-Ma'un, which is like a small type of good, and we'll talk more about that when we get to that word, right? A next name, or another name, right, and you need to write this down, and the title would be, the heading would be, Names of the Surah. And the grand title, or the grand heading would be what? Sudais? It's the biggest heading you're going to have on your notes. Ma'un. Have you written that down? Okay, you want to get that. All right? Make sure that you're keeping up. Tayyib. So we said al-ma'un. Another one is ara'ayta, which is the first word, or words from the surah. Have you not seen? Right? Or ara'ayta alladhi yukadhibu. Do you not see the one who denies? Do you not see the one, or don't you see the one who denies? Right? So the first part of the first ayah. That's one of the names. And that means, or I already said what it means, right? A third one is ad-din. Simply the word ad-din, right? أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Have you not seen the one who denies, right, ad-din? And the word deen, general means recompense. We generally don't use that word, but like compensation, right? You did something, you're compensated for it. So whether you did something good, you're compensated for it, or if you did something wrong, likewise, what? You're given some type of compensation for it, right? And this is in reference to Yom al-Qiyamah. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So the third one is what? Everybody? Ad-Din. All right, fourth one. So I'm going to ask you to help ask one of your neighbors. The fourth one, Al-Yatim. Al-Yatim, or the orphan, which is also another word that's mentioned in the surah, right? And Yatim means orphan. Another name, At-Takdhib. At-Takdhib, right? Which means to belie. At-Takdhib, which is just a word, it's taken directly from the surah.
What does it mean?
At-Takdhib. We'll get to that, inshallah. Tayyib. Now, all right, so we're done with names of the surah. Who can quickly tell me the names of the surah and how many are there? Yes, Ritej.
There's five.
Okay.
The first one is Ma'am, the second one is Al-Aita, the third one is Al-Yatim, and At-Takdhib.
Okay, right? So those are the names. Now we're moving on to, is this a surah Makkiyah or Madaniyah? Or Marhalat al-Nuzul? Is it surah Makkiyah or Madaniyah? Now, in general, there are three different opinions, right? There are three different opinions. Number one, there are some who say it's surah Makkiyah, meaning that it was revealed prior or before the migration of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions to Medina. Surah Makkiyah. That's number one. I wonder if you should write that down. That's the first opinion. When was the surah revealed? All right. Second opinion is no, that it's Surah Madaniyah, that it was revealed after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions to Medina. So Surah Madaniyah, or you can say just Madani, Makki or Madani. And then the third, there are some scholars who say, like Imam Suyuti rahimahullah, he says no, part of it was revealed in Mecca, or excuse me, prior to Hijrah, and part of it, the other part, was revealed after the Hijrah. Now, why is this? Why do some say Mecca? Why do some say Medina? Why do some say both? Right? Because if y'all remember, when we had our introduction, we said, what's the difference between chapters that were revealed prior to the Hijrah versus after the Hijrah? One of the main, huh?
They
They
cancel.
cancel?
Cancel all of them, right? Madani's canceled the
No, not by default or necessarily. It can. That's called nasikh wal mansukh, which means something abrogates or cancels something out. But no, that's not the main thing of feature of chapters before the Hijrah or after. One of the main things are their subjects, like what they're talking about, what are the focus of those chapters. So, in this particular surah, right, and it starts by saying what? أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Right? Have you not seen the one who denies the day of judgment, or the day of recompense, which is one of the names of the day of judgment, the day of recompense. So the people, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. What's the other part? وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. So whoever does good, they're going to see it on Yom al-Qiyamah. And those who do bad, they're going to see it, right? That day, the day of judgment, right? They're saying, do you see the one who denies that day? That was like a feature of the Quraysh, that they denied that there would be a day of resurrection, accountability, that we have to stand in front of Allah. And that theme and those subjects are key features of surahs or chapters that were before the Hijrah. Before the Hijrah. That was a big focus, right, of those chapters that are Makkiyah. And that's the beginning of the surah. Then the later part, or the later part of the surah, right, talks about them turning away orphans, not helping others, right, preventing even the smallest of good, and those are characteristic of hypocrites. And that doesn't occur, right? The presence of hypocrites doesn't occur until after the hijrah, where you had those people who would come to the salah, right, and they don't even pray, illa kusala. They get up lazily. They're just showing off. They're just doing it because I'll be exposed if I don't pray at all. They're going to know what's up. But those were also more so talked about in Madani surahs. So anyways, long story short, so some scholars said because of the presence of it talking about people denying the day of judgment, like the Quraysh, khalas, it's Mecca. Then there were those who said, nah, it's talking about the hypocrites. And part of them being hypocrites is that they deny the day of judgment as well. So no, it's a Madani surah. And then there's some, like Imam As-Suyuti rahimahullah, he said, nah, the first part, because the first part of the surah is talking about something that's characteristic of people before the hijrah. So part of it was revealed then, and then a part of it was revealed later on, right? Seeming like he's trying to make some type of reconciliation between both of the opinions, right? But Allah knows best. Allah knows best. So we're going to keep it moving though. So how many opinions do we have now?
3.
And what are they? Sister in the back. I'm sorry, refresh my memory. Your name, sister? Huh? Siham. Give me what you got. That it's Surah Makkiyah? Makkiyah, why? Who can help her out? Help her out. What's up, Sudais?
One of them, there was 3. There was 3 opinions. One
No. She said it's Surah Makkiyah. That's the first opinion. Why? What was the reason for them to say that?
Surah Makkiyah, because in the beginning of the surah it talks about people not believing the day of judgment and.
Bas. Jazakallah khair. It talks about people not believing in the day of judgment. That's their rationale and their reasoning behind that. Number 2.
People say Surah Madani because
Not people, scholars.
scholars think
Scholars, no.
because of hypocrites. They're talking about hypocrites.
And that's,
Madani, Surah Madani.
okay, hypocrites were around when? Look it, remember, and how do you, what do I mean by hypocrites were around? Remember, in Mecca, they was getting beat, they was getting spit on, they was getting disrespected. They're being turned away, kicked out from their homes, family, tortured, even killed. Anybody who became Muslim at that time, you for real want to be Muslim. Nobody's going to pretend to be Muslim and then be like, yeah, go ahead, come and take all my money, go ahead and torture me, go ahead and disrespect my family, go ahead. Nobody's going to do that unless they really, what, Umar? They're not going to go through that unless they what? Unless they really, for real, are real believers. They have real faith. Like those sorcerers, right?
Sorcerers.
Yeah, like the sorcerers who not fought against, excuse me, but who went against Musa alayhi salam with Fir'aun, right? And they did a tremendous sorcery on the people, right, on their eyes to make it seem like their ropes were doing what? Anybody know that story?
Yeah, and they got their knees off.
No, the snake,
They look like snakes.
it looked like snakes. They were sorcerers.
Yeah.
But then Musa, what did he do?
They made a big.
By the permission of Allah, he had a miracle, and his staff turned into a what? Not that it looked like a snake, it was a real snake. The molecular structure of that thing completely changed. It's a real snake now. And what did it do? It ate up all theirs. So when they saw that, they're like, oh no, he's the real deal. We believe in him. And what did Fir'aun threaten them with?
Hang them and cut off their knees.
Not hang them. He's going to, what's even worse, crucify them. Because if you get hanged, that's it. Your neck snaps when you fall, right? Your neck is going to break anyways, right? When they drop your body and the weight pulls it up. And if you're still alive, you're going to what? Suffocate, asphyxiation, and it's over. Khalas. No, he said, لَأُقَطِّعَنَّكُمْ. I'm going to crucify you, and I'm going to cut off your limbs on opposite sides. I mean, I'm going to cut off this hand, and then the opposite side, your foot, I'm going to cut that off. And then I'm going to crucify you, right? So everybody can see you. But because they believed, they said, you do whatever you want. We know this is real. We believe in Allah, and we believe in the Lord of Musa alayhi salam, right? And you only have you have some type of dominion. You can do whatever you want in this dunya, but we're not backing down. My point here is what? That they were willing to go through that torture because of their what? Because of their faith. Because they believed. And they right? So now, but if somebody's a hypocrite and they're just pretending, is that what they're gonna do? They're gonna be like, go ahead, take it, Pharaoh. They're gonna do that? They'll be like, no, hey, that's too much. Hey, I was just playing. We was just playing, Pharaoh, right? But it's because of their faith and them being genuine that they did that. Similarly, here in Mecca, the people who embraced Islam that time, and it's part of the reason why the Muhajirun, right, have such virtue and status. Those who became Muslim, those who fought, those who contributed, i.e., gave money, right, before and after, they're not the same because those people, it's a higher quality. They went through a longer, more challenging purification process than anybody else. So, anyways,
They just lied to say I'm not Muslim.
some of them did, like Ammar bin Yasir, he did. He was given, right? He was allowed to do that because he felt so bad about what he did. He was ashamed in front of the Prophet ﷺ when he was being tortured, his father and his mother, and they ended up killing his mother, Sumayyah, radiallahu anhum ajma'in. The Quraysh did, right? They chose one of the hottest places in Medina, or in Mecca, that has no trees, no shelter, and there was some land that they had that was owned by Bani Makhzum. Anyways, so he would take them out there, right, and he would beat and torture them. And it was typically the poor, right, those who were servants or slaves, etc., right? They can't do too much. And the Prophet ﷺ, he used to have to walk by that. But anyways, what they would do while they're torturing them, they would say, all right, now that you had enough, are you ready to go back on your deen? Are you ready to reject or what have you? Right? Go ahead and say Allat. Go ahead and say Al-Uzza. Right? Those are the names of different gods. They're saying, say their names. And so, subhanAllah, you know what I'm saying? He's so out of it. He's being beaten, tortured, starved, no water, right? Dehydrated. He says something. And he feels ashamed in front of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet ﷺ tells him that it's okay. And if they do it to you again, then go ahead and say it again. Because that's not what you really believe in your heart. Right? Because a hypocrite is what? They believe one thing in their heart and they show something else on the outside. Right? So now, because of duress, because he's being tortured, he's being forced to, right? He's allowed to say something. And the Prophet ﷺ tells him, if it happens again, do it again. You don't have to go through that. Right? And so, now, the point though is that the people who are hypocrites, they're not going to go through all that. Right? So why was this surah? So now is the cause of this revelation of Surah Al-Ma'un. Right? The cause of Surah Al-Ma'un. Now it's mentioned by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. He said that it came down regarding Al-As ibn Wa'il as-Sahmi. And then there's others who said that it was Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, right? And some said no, it was Abu Jahl. And you're wondering, do I need to write this down or do I need to mention? I will tell you, you need to mention the names you need to know. Al-Walid ibn Mughira, Al-Walid ibn Mughira, Abu Jahl, and Abu Sufyan. That's okay. Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. And as far as the spelling, if you're spelling it in English, don't worry about it. Spell it however as long as you can say al-Mughira. Is it G-H? Is it G-H-I? Don't worry about that, as long as you can read it. All right, I'm not going to test your English spelling of an Arabic word anyways. The next one is Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl, which was who was the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. And another even says Abu Sufyan. And what happened is that there was a orphan who was entrusted to Abu Jahl. There was an orphan that was entrusted to Abu Jahl, or to one of them, and they came to him with almost no clothes on, meaning extremely poor, extreme poverty, right? And they asked to have some money, and he's entrusted to him anyways. He's supposed to look after him, right? So imagine like a relative dies, right? And I say, yo, my son or my daughter, I want him to take care of, but it's a relative, not just some random person. All right, it's not just a random person, right? And he refused him. He rejected him. It's like, get out of here. I'm not doing nothing for you. Even though, remember, all these people we just mentioned, Al-Walid ibn Mughira, Abu Jahl, and Abu Sufyan, they are the wealthy. They're the wealthy of the Quraysh and the heads of the Quraysh. So it's not like him giving a few dinars or some dirhams or even some food is going to take anything from his wealth. So we keep it moving now. And then it's mentioned about Abu Sufyan that he used to, on a weekly basis, he used to slaughter a camel. Now, have any of y'all ever seen a camel? It's a massive animal. It's huge, right? So it can be huge. It can get up to like 7 feet, right? They can get up to like 7 feet. They're huge. That's a lot of food to be slaughtering that every week. Huh? Can you imagine every week? Just imagine every week eating one goat. Y'all all had some hit up before. Imagine eating your dad going out and bringing home a whole goat for your mom to cook every week. After a while, you'd be like, we got too much. We got to start throwing stuff is going to start going bad. You can't eat it, all of that. It's a lot. He used to do that every week. And yet, when some orphans came to him and asked him for something, فَسَأَلَهُ شَيْئًا فَقَرَعَهُ بِعَصَى, he beat them and hit them with a stick. Like, get up out of here. Right? So, Abu Jahl, entrusted with an orphan, doesn't take care of him. Abu Sufyan, who slaughters a camel every week, when an orphan comes to him, not only, or some orphans come to him, not only does he refuse them, right, he actually hits them with a stick, right, to chase them away. Yes? Abu Sufyan, the last one, that hit the orphan with the stick.
It's not like
All the same?
yeah, like
No, I mentioned one, Abu Jahl, entrusted. Like, this is your ward. You have to take care of him now. And he refused to take care of the orphan. And then Abu Jahl, he outright hits him with a stick and says, get up out of here. But the yatim, someone who either their father, right, has died, or their mother and father has died. That's an orphan. So their parents, they'd have no parents. All right? Allahu Akbar. What are we looking like on time, sister? 5 minutes? Okay, good.
5 minutes.
No. No. So, there we go. Trying to help y'all out with notes. Can y'all see that clearly?
Yeah.
All right, khalas. Tayyib. So is there anybody who could read it real quick for us? Jazakallah khair, Bilal. Ahsant. Jazakallah khair. All right, if we can have a sister just read the English for us real quick.
Have you seen him who denies the recompense? That is he who oppresses the oppression, and urges not on the freedom of every scheme before. So woe unto these performers of salat, prayers, hypocrites. Those who delay their salat, prayer from their those who delay their salat, those who do good deeds only to be seen of men, and prevents al-ma'un, small kindness, exalt true love.
Yeah. All right, so the first thing is what? أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Right? So have you not seen the one who denies a deen? Those who deny the day of judgment, or excuse me, the recompense, or like we mentioned earlier, the compensation. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drawing our attention to the mindset and the belief of certain people, right? Now, obviously, first and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he's dealing with who? Who's the people or the community that he's dealing with? Assalamu alaikum, y'all. Who is the people in Mecca, the people that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is dealing with? The Quraysh, those, right? Obviously, they're not the only people, but they're the main people who are there, and oftentimes the Quran is addressing because they're the ones who are posing the greatest amount of opposition, right? And they deny a deen, right? So that's a common belief and practice that many of these people have. It's a common belief that they have, that there is no recompense. You talking about Allah sees everything that I do, every little big thing I do. You tell everything? Come on. And that all of that is supposed to be brought back to me and shown to me. I did this, I did this, I did this. Come on. But as I mentioned earlier, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ, right? ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. Allah says, listen, even if you do the smallest amount, mithqala, which is like this, like a mustard grain seed, which is like nothing. Like it's the smallest, possible thing you could say. But if you did good, don't ever belittle it. Don't ever think it's not going to be brought and that you're not going to be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. Other people might have thought of it as insignificant. Heck, you may have even thought it wasn't that big a deal. I just gave somebody $2. What? You know what I'm saying? That person was sad and I smiled in their face. I didn't do nothing. I didn't give them anything. It didn't take me notes. All I did was I smiled, waved, and mashallah, they were like, oh, somebody saw me. I feel better. It seems small and insignificant, but Allah says any good that you do, you will be compensated for it. There is a recompense. And then conversely, any bad that you do, any wrong that you do, also Abdurrahman, that you will be what? You'll be compensated for it. You're going to see it. Which also means that little that somebody might have thought of when it came to good, that it wasn't that big a deal. On the other side, if you thought it wasn't that big a deal or that nobody saw me, it will come. It will be brought. And the Quraysh, they denied this. Some of it is because they thought like Allah doesn't see everything, even the small stuff, or outright they didn't believe in the day of judgment. Right? Now, the word ad-deen, what does the word deen mean? Right? Yes. Jazakallah khair. All right? Let's give us 5 more minutes. All right? The word deen, what does it mean? Religion, that's one of them, right? We've heard of the, right? Deenul Islam, that's one of the ways that it's referred to. And, mashallah, you see it up, did you see it up there? You just got it, mashallah. Okay. What else?
Is it like faith?
It means faith?
No, it means like something like the Adin represents like your faith in Allah.
No, mashallah. You're getting a little philosophical there, brother. Mashallah. But no. From where? Where have, I'm sure all of you know. Where have y'all heard that word before? From the surah, from a surah in the Quran. What is it? It's not Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. It is Surah Al-Fatiha. Tell me, what is it? Malikiyo Middin, the day of recompense. Right? So a deen, yes, it's a way of life, religion. It's also a name, right, for Yom al-Qiyamah, or the day of judgment, the day of standing, the day of recompense. These are all different names. But when he says Yom ad-Din, that day of compensation, it's referring to the day of judgment. And then thirdly, it means that singular, that one word, recompense or compensation. All right. Tayyib. So this also establishes for us the belief in the day of judgment. Right? The opposite of that, the people who deny it. So the opposite are those who believe and affirm. Right? And we know that the belief in the day of judgment is one of the what? Of Islam. There's something, somebody remind me. It's one of the pillars of Islam, right? Not the pillars of Islam? Pillars of Iman. Which one? In order. The sixth one? Fifth. It's the fifth one. Al-Imanu billah wa malaikatihi. What is it, y'all? Wa malaikatihi. Wa kutubihi, the books. Wa rusulihi, the messengers. Wal yawm al-akhir, the one that you said. The one that you said, Sudais, number 5. And belief in the day of judgment. What's the last one? Everybody. وَبِالْقَدْرِ خَيْرِ وَشَرِّ, and belief in the day of judgment, the good of it and the bad of it. The sweet and the bitter, Abdurrahman. You got to believe that all of it is by the qadr of Allah. Tayyib. So obviously, Allah is telling us, right? He wouldn't mention this unless he's telling us a lesson, which is don't be like them.
What happened to them?
Well, first of all, obviously, they don't believe, so we should, everybody believe. Yeah. Right? That's why he's telling us about this. All right. فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدْعُ الْيَتِيمَ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. All right. So now he's going on to describe this person who does not believe in the day of judgment, which means he doesn't believe in some type of accountability in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because part of the benefit of believing that there's a day of judgment is that when I'm alone by myself and I am at my house and the doors are closed and the curtains are shut and I think I'm in a room alone, I know that even if I didn't get caught, or if I stole something, or if I lied and I didn't get caught, I believe that I'm still going to have to answer for that, what I did. To who? When? So then, even though I might feel like I'm by myself, or I feel like I'm online and nobody knows who I am, I'm anonymous, I still have a sense and a belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees me. It doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the night, etc. Allah sees everything. And if you remove that, right, then people having a sense of holding back, a sense of shame, right, a sense of, man, I can't do that because Allah sees me. Man, I can't say that because Allah hears me. That is removed if you don't believe in the day of judgment, right? Which, unfortunately, you see a lot of people, that's how they move and how they operate. They move and operate like what? Like they don't believe that they're going to have to answer for what they do. Whether it be young people that you see on social media, or whether it be governments like Israel and what they're doing. They're moving and operating like what? We can do whatever we want with impunity. Nobody's going to stop us. And there's nothing that's going to happen, whether in this life or in the hereafter, which also gives us at least some modicum of comfort that we believe, right? That we believe that khalas, even if a baby dies now and nobody went to jail for it, nobody got tried, nobody got prosecuted, nobody was held accountable. Our belief in the day of judgment is that what? Whoever did that crime, it doesn't mean they're going to get away with it forever, but that they will have to answer when? Yawm ad-Din, on the day of recompense. This is a part of the benefit of belief in the hereafter. Matter of fact, I would even say it's why you still see people in Palestine, right, in Gaza, who are in a stretch of land that's what, 25 miles by like 5 or 7 miles, right? It's like the length of a marathon. That's it. And yet, they're still able to smile, be happy, say Alhamdulillah, right? And still push on, still move forward, right? Still say, Inshallah. Because why? Because they have a belief that this is not the end, right? Even though my daughter's dead, my grandson is dead, my wife has passed, but that this life is not the end, that there's a day of recompense. Y'all understand that? So it's deep. Don't think like this is something where it's like, oh, this is just something at the Ma'had you learn real quick. You understand what I'm saying? That's like a real world application of us, like we're witnessing and watching for ourselves, like somebody who believes in the day of judgment. Because somebody who doesn't believe in the day of judgment, they'll be like, what? That's not fair. Why me? How is that possible? These people are going to get away with everything and nothing's going to happen. That would be like, well, why should I even keep moving on with life? Why should I even? Y'all understand? I hope that makes sense. Anyways, we keep it pushing. So now, the person who doesn't believe like that, or who does believe that there is no day of recompense, that there is no day of judgment, that there is no accountability, what do you expect from them in terms of their behavior? When it comes to taking care of orphans, yad'u al-yatim, they repulse them. Get up out of here. No, I don't got nothing for you. Right? Not only that, وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. And when it is asked, or the opportunity to give to the poor is presented, no. They want nothing to do with that. They don't give. They're stingy. They're selfish. They don't look after and they don't care for others. This is the mentality and the psychology that is breeded by someone who does not believe in the day of judgment. Does that mean everybody who doesn't believe in the day of judgment acts like this? No. But it is a common theme and characteristic of people who don't believe in the day of judgment. Now, and so it doesn't stop there. He goes on, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, right? So woe to those performers of salah. Now that would sound, well, before we even get to that, first of all, the word wail. You need to know what this word means. You need to take it down. There are some scholars who say it is the name of a valley in the hellfire. The word wail, right, which is the first word in that ayah. Let me see if I can highlight it for you. Not the fa, just this. Whoops. This word wailun, right? That some scholars say that it is the name of a valley in the hellfire. So there's a valley in the hellfire for those who pray. And it's also, so that's one meaning of the word. Another meaning of the word is like a warning. What's up?
You said a valley in the hellfire for what?
The name of a valley in the hellfire. Wailun. Oh, for the people who, yeah, you heard me right. For those who pray.
For those who pray.
For those who pray. You heard me right.
Are going to hell.
Going to that, not just hell, that special place, a special valley in the hellfire.
Right.
That's a good question. We'll get to that.
Yeah, but what do you mean they think?
We'll get to that. Did you write it down?
Okay.
All right, don't ask me no question before you write it down, Sheikh. But yes, it does sound weird, doesn't it? You're saying, hold on. The people who pray, they're being warned about going to the hellfire. So the second meaning real quick is warning. Right? That's a warning. The word woe, like woe to you. Warning to you. Right?
Okay, but I still, what do
We
you mean?
gonna get there, Habibi.
No, it's a small question, please.
No, we gonna get there. So hold on a second. All right. So now, if you stop there, it does sound off. How you gonna say the people who pray? If anything, we would think we're all praying. So they say hellfire for us, special valley in the hellfire for us. Nah. Alladhina hum an salatihim sahun. Those who with their they are heedless and lazy in their prayer. So these two ayat, they go together. Ayah number 4 by itself, it sounds off. Hold on, you saying people who pray go to the hellfire? Number 5 gives it context. And this concept or this idea of context is very important that all of you need to be familiar with. Because there are places someone will say, well, the Quran tells you to kill the kuffar. You'll be like, hold on now. There may be an ayah that says, kill them wherever you find them. For example, in Surah Tawbah. But what is the context? Why does it say that? The context is that there was a treaty between the Muslims and the non-Muslims. Right? Just real quick to give you an example. And it's from Surah Tawbah. There was a treaty, and that treaty was broken. Right? That treaty was broken. And so now our treaty is that we're not going to fight. We're going to respect y'all. Y'all respect us. But if you break that treaty, now you've proven treacherous. Now we have to fight. It's like when someone has a ceasefire. When they have a ceasefire, they say what? Y'all don't kill nobody, and we won't kill nobody. But if they break the ceasefire, then what? What? And this is internationally. This is according to international law. If they break the ceasefire, then what is expected that's going to happen? Retaliation. Retaliation. Right? That's the context of that in Surah Tawbah. Al-Muhim, so when non-Muslims, when they say, for example, Muslims are terrorists, Muslims are warmongers, Muslims are this or that, right? And they pick verses in isolation and what's called cherry picking, right? This is a perfect example where you tell them, right, all you have to do is ask them, what is the context? You said that ayah by itself. What's the ayah before it? What's the ayah after it? What's the tafsir? Right? Like why was that even chapter, was it or those statements of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why were they even revealed? There's a story behind it, there's a context. It's very important. Do you need to take note of that? Do you need to write that down? Important issue or idea of context when it comes to the Quran. Yes, you do. You need to write that down, sir. Why is it important? Number 1, context clarifies meaning of verses. Number 2, right? Aside from it giving you clarity, it tells you why something happened, or why a verse was revealed, or why did Allah say that, or why is Allah telling us to do something. It's very important, Abdurrahman, for yourself, and as well as even when you deal with non-Muslims, because they say somebody might say some buck wild stuff, Umar. And you got to tell them, oh, hold on, no, we don't believe that. We don't do that. For example, there's lots of verses about jihad. And we're not talking about jihad of the soul and the spiritual nature. No, jihad, fighting, battle, swords, people being killed, the battlefield, etc. But each time there's a what? What's the word? What's the word, Jama'ah? There's context. For example, you and I and us right here, we don't like the foreign policy of the United States. So we're going to get together as a group and we're going to go do something because Allah talks about fighting in the Quran.
Whoa.
Exactly. Exactly. No, there's a context. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives those rulings and regulations, there's a context. It's not just, I take whatever I want and then I do it when I feel like it. No. That's not how it is. Right? So to be unequivocally clear, that would actually be impermissible to do, even if you had good intentions. Now, So, for example, when it comes to fighting, there's supposed to be an Islamic ruler or leader, right? There's supposed to be a sovereign nation, right? Sovereign rule. And by sovereign, meaning that they have clearly defined borders. They provide services for those that are under them, their citizens, right? That's how you define someone as a government or a leader, right? Because under those contexts, right, those are the ones who would execute something like, we defend our borders, we defend our citizens, right? Now, anyways, so here, those who pray, it's not just talking about people in general who pray, but in here, it's talking about one of the characteristics of the hypocrites, that they lazily pray, or they just show off, what is called a riya. So you need to know about riya, right? Them praying, salatihim sahun, that they just show off. You need to know the idea of a riya. You need to know the idea of a riya. It's not written up there. None of it, what I'm saying, is written up there. A riya, and something called a sum'ah, which goes with it. A riya, the Prophet ﷺ said, أخوف ما أخاف عليكم شرك الأصغر فسئل عنه فقال الرياء. He said, the thing that I'm most afraid of for you, and he's speaking to the Sahaba, he said, shirk al-asghar, the minor shirk. And they asked, what is this minor shirk? And he said, it's riya, which means to show off, to do something for other people, to do something to be seen by other people, right? Because it's from the word ra'a, to be, right, or to have seen. So now, when you pray, or you read Quran, or you memorize Quran, or you give in charity, or you do whatever good deed that it is, and you do it to impress others, or to show off to others, or to appease others. I'm here because my Hoya and my Abo, they made me come here. They dragged me here. And I'm just showing up because I ain't got no choice. Huh? And not because it's a personal decision and it's something that's happening between me and my Creator, which is something that all of you should consider. And then sum'ah is, as opposed to the being seen part, it's being heard. So whether, for example, you do it because of your reputation. You want people to hear about you. Wow, she's such a beautiful reciter. Her voice, or his voice, is so wonderful. And mashallah. Y'all ever heard the expression, your reputation precedes you? Like, we heard about you before we even saw you or you even got here. And some people, they do it just for that. Tell you. So now, look it. Allah is saying some people, they do that with regards to their salah. And we said he's talking about which category of people? He's talking about the believers. Is he talking about the believers here? Is he talking about the disbelievers? Who is he talking about, everybody? Who is he talking about, everybody? Sudais, you're a part of everybody. The hypocrites. So that means what? If you're not mindful in your prayer, you delay your prayer. You pray late. I keep pushing it back. I'm going to pray when I get home. You know what? I'm not even going to pray while I'm at work or while I'm at school. I'm going to just pray Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib all together when I get to the house. There's some people who do that. That would be characteristic of what? Of which people? The hypocrites. That you might not be entirely, completely a hypocrite, but you have just one more characteristic of the hypocrites. Just like the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions, right? There are different characteristics, like when a hypocrite, when they speak, either hadatha kadhib. Whenever they speak, they lie. So if you do that, if you're someone who lies a lot, you may not be a hypocrite, but you have a characteristic. So you're one step closer to being like them. Now, I'm telling you. So we keep it moving. And we'll just mention this hadith real quick, where it's narrated by in both Bukhari and in Muslim. He said, I heard the Messenger of Allah ﷺ say, and I'm sorry, that's Anas ibn Malik. He said, I heard the Messenger of Allah ﷺ say, this is the prayer of the hypocrite. This is the prayer of the hypocrite. This is the prayer of the hypocrite. He sits watching the sun until it's between the two horns of the shaitan. Then he stands up and pecks 4 rak'ahs. And he does not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except very little. So look, he's even describing about that person delaying the prayer. Say they basically keep delaying it until there's like 5 minutes left. Like, oh man, it's almost Asr time. I still didn't pray Dhuhr. I gotta hurry up and pray. He says, and then when they do, he says, they just pray real quick. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, right? And so, if you want to know, do you have that type of characteristic or a characteristic of the hypocrites? Look at your salah. Do you pray it on time? Do you pray it in its proper time? For the brothers, do you try your utmost to make it to the masjid and pray in jama'ah? Huh? Do you make it to Jumu'ah in its time? You'll see some people, they come in the last, they don't even come for the khutbah. They just come for the salah part, so they can hurry up and get back to work. Now, but if you do, you can measure yourself. Do you have that characteristic of the hypocrite? But just by looking at your salah. طيب. So now, we move on. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. So he says, those who do good deeds only to be seen. And not only that, but they prevent any type of good. All right, so now, we done already talked about a riyah, right? I got ahead of myself. But we said that riyah is to do something to be seen. Not that it's something between you and Allah. When we pray, that's supposed to be between us and Allah. When we make adhkar, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, astaghfirullah, for the sake of Allah. When we seek knowledge, like everything we do, there's an ayah that summarizes what it should be. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتَ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to say that verily my prayers, my sacrifices, my living, and my dying, look at even in your death, everything. That means everything from beginning to end. Lillah is for Allah, the Lord of all that exists. La sharika lah. And further emphasizing, and he has no share, no partners. It's only for him, and we further emphasize he ain't got no partners in that. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ. And that's what we've been commanded. وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And I am the vanguard. I am the first of those to submit. This is what it's supposed to be. But somebody who does a riyah, who shows off, who's worried about likes, who's worried about how many people saw me, right? Like Umar, how many times you seen somebody, right? Those so-called social experiments where they walk around, right? And then they ask people nicely, yo, could you help me out? You know what I'm saying? They'll be in front of a grocery store and people are walking out. They're like, yo, I ain't got nothing for you. And then when somebody does do something nice for them, then they give them they buy all their groceries for them or something. You ever seen those? Those little, right? Now, what is that social experiment, quote unquote, proving? Allahu A'lam. Right? That some people are good and some people are bad. We already know that. But really it's just showing what? That this so-called person who's doing that little experiment is just showing what? How quote unquote generous he or she is. Why couldn't he just go and find somebody who's actually poor and broke and just go give it to them? And ain't got nothing to do with social media. Why couldn't they just do that? Instead of bothering and harassing a bunch of other people, then making them look bad, because you don't know why that person said no. You don't know why he doesn't ask. He doesn't say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Do you got a sick kid who's got cancer and you ain't got no extra money? Hey, was that your last dollar? And he doesn't, none of that. It's just, hey, can you help me out? Make him look bad. Or forget the little social experiment where people go and then they feed people and but they can't just feed them and give it to, no. We got to make sure I get my good side. All right, you see? Okay, do you see me? I'm giving them the sandwich now. Okay, did you take the picture now? Okay, no, make sure that you got the light behind it, because you know what I'm saying. They got to do all that. And so, but when those cameras are not there, social media is not there, they don't have somebody with a phone on them. They might even look at that homeless person. They might not even help nobody out. The only time they're doing it is when, right? And this is something that is unfortunately become widespread and common, right? Now, there might be something where, I'll give you an example. Like right now, I'm recording right now. And no doubt that's for other people to see, for sure. But the intention has to be what? That I'm doing it because there's some students, for example, who can't make it, so that they can see it. And that I would have to wrestle with myself and my niyyah and my intention. That I got to make sure, Whether I get it, it gets famous on YouTube or whatever, because that's what I'm using, or it doesn't, I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. And that's each and every one of us, that's what you have to do whenever you're doing something. So it could be that you do put it on social media, but why are you putting it on social media? So I'm not saying you can't ever put something on social media, because you might motivate and inspire other people, you know what I'm saying, to do something good. But there are many people who are just doing it just to be seen, just to get likes, for the brand. I got to do it for my brand.
Brother, Allah eyes are open.
No, it's good. I saw you. Alhamdulillah. Tayyib. And then the ma'un. Al-ma'un is a small type of good. A type of good that doesn't take anything from you. Right? And that's why in the translation, in parentheses, it said like sugar, water, or whatever. Because a small good is like somebody comes to your house and says, hey, you know what I'm saying? I was making some cookies. I ran out of sugar. You mind if I get like maybe like a cup of sugar? Right? And you got a full stocked pantry of food in the house. And you got a big old thing of sugar. And they're not going to take nothing from you. Or a bottle of water. And you just bought a whole case. I said, man, you know what I'm saying? I was running. My house is locked. Could I get like some water? That's considered ma'un, a small good that doesn't really take anything from you. You don't really feel it. We're not talking about like donating $1,000 to the masjid or to help, send, $10,000 to build something or like, no, small good. That's what al-ma'un is. But characteristic of those people who are hypocritical, who don't believe in accountability, who don't believe in the day of judgment, who don't believe that they're going to stand in front of Allah, something that they do is those little types of good. Nah, they don't do that, right? Which also means what? If they're not willing to do those small good deeds, the small little good, then what about when it does come time where we have a whole group of orphans? They just immigrated here. We need $10,000. We need to buy them some clothes. We need to get them some housing. We need to get some whatever. What can you give? If they're not giving some water, some sugar, a couple dollars, you think they're finna help give $1,000 or do something bigger or more? No, of course not. No. So, what are some takeaways from this surah? Number one, we said what is belief in the day of judgment, right? And a marker and a sign of, the disbelievers is that they don't believe in the day of judgment. Takeaways from this surah. Takeaways from this surah. Lessons from this surah. Is that we have to believe in the day of judgment, and characteristic of disbelievers is that they don't believe in the day of judgment. Number two, Allah is warning us about exploiting or taking advantage of orphans, widows, and the poor. Beware, it's a warning of exploiting the weak, orphans, widows, the poor, etc. I just said. Number one was belief in the day of judgment. And number two is a warning. And it's highlighted up there, that green one, that first green one. Number three, right? Being mindful in your prayer, or being careful. Being careful about your prayer. Praying in its time, right? What's the ayah? Inna salata kana 'ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. That verily the prayers have been written and prescribed on the believers with prescribed times. Being mindful of the prayers. And brothers and sisters, the prayer is the backbone of your faith and your Islam. The prayer is the backbone of your Islam. Without your prayer, the integrity of your Islam is in jeopardy. It's more important than your little part-time job. It's more important than your little side hustle. It's more important than your midterms. It's more important than your finals. It's more important than basketball practice. It's more important than anything else you are doing. It's more important than your friends. It's more important than kicking and hanging out. We were supposed to go to the mall. It is more important than all of that. So what that means is, it doesn't mean that you can't do all those things. Go to work, take care of your homework, do your midterms, you know what I'm saying? Be on the basketball team. Heck, be the best at all of those things. Be the best worker at your work. Be the best basketball player. I mean, if you can, if you put in the hard work, shit, and practice, etc. But then, never let those compromise your salah. Don't be like, well, I have to go to work and work is more important, so I'm going to have to delay or even miss the prayer. Or I have to study and I got homework, or I'm in the middle of a test, and this is more important, so I'll just push the prayer back. Well, nobody else is praying, all my friends, and I'm hanging out with them, so while I'm with them, I'm going to just pause my prayer. I usually pray, but when I'm with them, since they're not doing it, I'm not going to do it. Prayer is more important than anything. And when you start playing, modifying, moving back, delaying, and being heedless of your prayer, that's a sign of the hypocrite. Tell you, keep it moving. A warning against minor shirk, or showing off. Riyah and Sum'ah. A warning about Riyah and showing off. A warning against hypocrisy and its characteristics. A warning against hypocrisy and its characteristics. And then lastly is Islam encourages taking care of orphans and the needy and the weak. Or in brief, social services. Islam is deeply concerned with social welfare and he's taking care of those who are in need. And with that, we'll stop.